What the actual What a time to be alive. God of War Laufey, the next chapter of the saga starring Kratos' wife Faye, was officially announced with 22 minutes of gameplay. And I am not exaggerating when I say that this reveal has entirely transformed our perception and understanding of the God of War universe forever. But before I get to dissecting this monstrosity of a reveal, if I were to be a little boastful for a second, I called it. A month after Ragnarok, I said a Faye game is coming, and I was correct. This is certainly not the game I predicted or any of us could expect, but still, all of us long-time Laufey the Just investors are cashing out right now, and it feels really good, man. I'm not gonna lie. This breakdown will consist of 3 parts. 1, the literal shot-by-shot trailer analysis pointing things out as they're literally happening on screen. 2, wild speculation, where I'm just going to wildly speculate about all the possibilities and implications this game presents. And 3, narrative and themes, where I'll be pointing out some of the emerging broad themes and narrative stuff, just as a little bonus at the end there. As Chris Pratt likes to say, let's go! The very long and only slightly self-indulgent intro is a direct parallel to the legendary God of War 2018 reveal that happened at the PlayStation E3 conference almost exactly 10 years ago.
Find your way home. You are free.
These words Kratos whispers to Faye before turning her to barbecue finds a very different meaning now, because we will very soon find out that Faye is very much not free, and finding her way home won't be very easy. The much anticipated God of War 2018 remaster is here, and Kratos is looking better lit, but a little more annoyed at his present circumstance, which is understandable. I realized there aren't a lot of ways to show a dead person waking up, but this moment couldn't not remind me of Kratos waking up after a death in Valhalla, and also this moment of Atreus waking up in Ironwood. This thing shows up and I don't know what it is. Most likely an original creature design. Toto, I don't think we're in Midgard anymore, but where are we? The Everywhen, afterlife of the gods. The birth and endpoint of all magic, and a realm all gods go to when they die. Yes, this is the thing that changes everything. This realm above the mortal plane has famously been a subject of speculation for a long, long time. This is the higher existence Athena referred to in God of War 3, and believe me, we'll be talking about her later. This place, or a version of it, is what Kratos supposedly saw in the Fallen God comic, and this is the place Odin wanted to see through the rift, and why he assembled the mask. And then Atreus cock-blocked everyone from seeing it for 4 years, but here it is now. This is where every god we've ever seen die in God of War goes. It all makes sense now. Can you imagine the crazy day this place was having during God of War 3? Literally the entire Greek pantheon shows up at the same time and everyone's like, what the fuck? What happened out there, you guys? It's worthy to note that this is the first truly original setting in a God of War game. Although there are plenty of mythologies mashed together, the Everywhen sounds a lot like Neverwhere, which is a novel about a dangerous magical underworld. This over-the-top cosmic afterlife does feel like a sci-fi fantasy novel come to life, with a bit of something like Alice in Wonderland in there. The reveal itself only shows one area of this world, the Mongolian Welcoming Committee prison camp, but the key art reveals a lot of other interesting places that I'll get into later. The main question I have about this place right now is, why is Faye here? She gets called a godling later, so has she actually been a goddess this entire time? It's possible, but my working theory is that it has to do with the splinter, confirmed to be a piece of a mask, an artifact with connection to this place that somehow classified Faye as a goddess and not a Jotun when she passed. Speaking of the mask and all that, since I'm dumping exposition and backstory right now, let's talk about the context for this game. What was Faye's plan before she died, and why is it being disrupted? At the end of God of War 2018, we find out that Faye orchestrated everything. Her final wish to spread her ashes atop the highest peak in the realms led to the bonding of the father and son, and the reveal that Faye, and therefore Atreus aka Loki, are giants. She literally painted every ledge and left written instructions to ensure that Kratos and Atreus reach Jotunheim. Why? Basically, to save the realms. This bond that Kratos and Atreus create in this game, the lessons they learn, the allies and foes they meet, is what leads to Ragnarok, the death of Odin, peace for the realms and the giants, and a purpose and very meaningful character arc for her husband and son. So, killing all the birds with one stone, really. But now, we're finding out that this plan is somehow in jeopardy, and it has to do with the mask. Faye's concern seems to be that there's another mask, so she is apparently cool with the existence of the Ragnarok mask because Loki needs to assemble and then destroy it to beat Odin. It's pretty clear that Faye actually interacted with the mask at some point, maybe even threw its pieces around the realms herself for her son to have a fun fetch quest, but it's unclear why the existence of another mask is the issue. Clearly, the mask is a way to look or even possibly move between the Everywhen and the mortal plane. I honestly doubt it's simply about the possibility of Odin or Loki being able to look into the rift. That feels way too insignificant now. Regardless, because of this, Faye is trying to go back. Frank later points out that
you're not even all here.
So clearly, she has some kind of remaining link to the mortal world, which would allow her to give hints of her presence we've seen in the Norse saga.
I didn't get to say goodbye.
We still don't know why or how Faye died, but now we know that it was somewhat unexpected. I'm very confident we'll get an answer about her cause of death at some point in the game.
The head of this poison ivy goon-looking creature is a Phalaenopsis orchid.
People who are saying that this game finally brought the jump back are very wrong, because it was actually brought back in Sons of Sparta 4 months earlier. Remember when that came out? This cubic rainbow-sheened structure gets called the Gateway, through which the gods pass to reach the Everywhen. We can see its magical structure right before Faye materializes in the afterlife. People keep saying that the way is shut.
The gateway is closed. The gateway is closed.
Which to me implies that there is a way to get back out somehow, and Faye needs to figure it out. We get a glimpse of our first known enemy faction of the game, bodiless Mongolian warrior spirits, possibly named Chotkor. I believe that's the term for a generic ghost demon. The creature they're subduing most resembles a kitsune, the nine-tailed flying fox from Japanese myth, although it looks to have fins, so I'm not sure. Also, Toto is fucking dead. This guy that Faye sees and later saves most reminds me of a Celtic fairy slash sprite slash puck, basically Mimir species, albeit with a very different horn anatomy and skin color. Then we meet these two baddies, narratively and physically speaking, in charge of this particular segment of the Everyone, Bekti, the Mongolian god of war, and Sekhmet, the daughter of Ra, an Egyptian goddess of war. Thus, this game more than fulfills the quota for the minimum required amount of gods of war in a God of War game. Also, these two certainly continue to support the main thesis of God of War, that the gods are selfish, power-hungry, and will always enslave, scheme, and destroy to maintain whatever sliver of power they can, even after death. A little bit about Bekti.
He's a mega sick-looking son of a bitch with 3 eyes, sharp teeth, flaming hair, and a crown of 5 human skulls. So basically, the most awesome, metal, badass, diabolical design ever conceived.
Mongolia, holy hell. Santa Monica didn't even need to invent anything for this guy. They just needed to turn him into the Hulk. A little bit about Sekhmet. Her very human face contradicts the established animal face design for Egyptian gods we saw with Thoth in the Fallen God comic and in Ragnarok lore. However, Sekhmet makes up for the lack of a lioness face by owning a massive 6-legged flying lioness with horns. I don't believe that's an actual mythological creature, but it does look like a prime location or even subject of a boss fight. The reason why the goddess's attire is much more serpentine than it is feline is because the standing cobra symbol, the uraeus, signifies royalty and divine authority. Also, Sekhmet is known as the Eye of Ra, which signifies the wrathful aspect of the sun god's divine justice, and you can see it right here. There it is. I do have a theory about why Sekhmet is dead. In the mythology, Ra sent his daughter to take care of some disloyal mortals, but Sekhmet, being the violent goddess of war, went a little overboard and decided to destroy literally all of humanity. Originally, the gods stopped her by getting her drunk with beer that looks like blood, but this is God of War, and Sekhmet is in the afterlife, so you can put 2 and 2 together.
Would you like to see how hard it is to die here, Godly? I can show you.
Bekti brings up an interesting concept about this world. You can't really die if you're already dead. It'll be interesting to see how Santa Monica solved this problem. What happens when Faye loses all her health? Does she regenerate Valhalla style? And what about all the enemies and gods she will fight? Is it possible to get rid of them for good? Fascinating. This observatory-looking thing with a little planet on top also features prominently in the box art and is clearly a key location in the game. We obviously have no idea what it does or what this light represents, but the celestial theming may imply some kind of interplanetary shenanigans. Also, we can literally see some other planets casually hanging out in the background, in case this location wasn't zany enough for you. It's time to talk about the de facto Atreus and Mimir of this game. Frank is a cosmic living gelatinous cube with a very American-sounding name and an equally American-sounding voice, but the name is spelled very Frenchly, so he must be from Quebec or something. Jokes aside, the name is a clear nod to Charlie, the giant turtle and Freya's home by occupation, and that name in itself is a reference to a GameSpot journalist accidentally calling Atreus Charlie in an article. Frank is not an actual mythological character as one might expect, and is a clear example of what SMS can cook up when they're not bound by the imagination of ancient humans. Gelatinous cubes are an enemy type in classic Dungeons & Dragons, a very viable source of inspiration for God of War, so that makes sense. I already mentioned that he can sense Faye's faint connection to the mortal world.
You're different. It's like you're holding something back.
So he certainly appears instrumental in Faye's quest of trying to return and save her family. Frank is played by Jack Quaid, who also voiced OG Atreus in Sons of Sparta. So the companion in God of War Laufey is played by the guy who also voiced the character who is the namesake of the original God of War companion, directly responsible for the existence of this one. That's some 4D chess casting right there. Rue is, or are, the ribbons in charge of protecting this big deal sword that I'll talk about in just a minute. Rue's actress Perlina Lau confirmed in an interview that on top of being an upgradable attack option in combat, Rue will call out dangers on the battlefield, effectively acting as the Mimir in this game. You're on fire, Laufey! It will pass! Before I talk who Rue might be in the mythology, we gotta talk about this very important and very powerful sword, the main weapon for Faye in this game. Rue's British accent threw me off the scent because, like many of you, I presume, I believed this sword to be the Arthurian Excalibur, but then I started thinking, Perlina is of Chinese descent, and this dragon design looks much more Asian than it does European. And then this nice person left a comment under my video and spared me all the research because I think this is it. I officially believe that this sword is Qixing Longyan, a legendary sword in Chinese mythology. The name literally translates to 7-star dragon abyss sword, that's the design, and represents fairness and integrity, which fits Faye pretty well. This sword is meant to look brilliant and ethereal as it was forged amid the 7 lakes shaped like the Big Dipper, but is also used to ward off demons, hence why Bekzi, a god from a neighboring mythology, is afraid of it. But of course, its true power and reason for a dead god to fear it is yet to be revealed. In Chinese mythology, the plant Ru is also known to ward off evil demons, which makes it a very fitting name for the protector of a demon-warding sword. I've been seeing a lot of theories about the unexpected appearance of Kratos here. Some say that this happens while Kratos steps into the light, or when he dies to Thor for 3 seconds. I don't really subscribe to those theories. Kratos is very clearly not aware of the Everywhen, and the yellow sparks of Jotnar magic imply that this is probably a vision or mental manifestation of her husband guiding and supporting her. As Faye herself said in Ragnarok,
You will always be a part of me. I will always be a part of you.
Besides, since this game takes place parallel to 2018, at this moment Kratos is probably busy yelling at his child. Bear McCreary, who's naturally back to score Laufey, confirmed that this is her new theme. The classic Norse Eivor humming melody is still very prominently featured and will represent Faye's connection to home, while this new one appears to represent her new identity in the afterlife. I waited until this point in the reveal, but it's time to talk about combat and all of Faye's new cool abilities. First of all, this lady has Soul Sever powers, giving some strong Claws of Hades vibes. The giants love messing with souls and putting them into marbles and stuff, but apparently in the Everywhen, this Jotun power is amplified, hence this. Faye also uses Jotnar magic as her shield, just like her son will in 3 or so years. We can also see that she has brief teleportation abilities. That's new, but sure, why not? The Longyan can levitate and spin around a little bit. Definitely resembles the axe somewhat, which makes complete sense. I don't have to say much about the reintroduction of the air combat, except that the air grabs are back, but instead of doing it any time like in the Greek games, they are still clearly linked to the stun meter like the Norse games. The last thing I want to point out about the trailer itself is that the Bekzi boss fight strongly reminds me of the hands-on toss each other around nature of the Baldur intro fight, which is probably happening around the same time, but you know, this is really how God of War intro fights usually go, so this is not as much a parallel as it is simply tradition. Santa Monica heartlessly refused to give us even a measly crumb of a release window, but I suspect that this is because we're much closer to a release than implied. This game has been in development for at least 4 if not 6 years. Santa Monica loves their sudden release reveals and even shadow dropped Sons of Sparta, so I wouldn't be surprised if in February they'll drop a trailer and the release is gonna be in March and everyone will be like, wow, no way, March, that's so soon. Yeah, that'd be nice, I think. The last little miscellaneous thing here, a golden falcon is used as a logo throughout the promo materials for this game. A golden falcon was Faye's symbol in the Ragnarok Jotnar edition and might represent her pet falcon Laufey, a creature exclusive to the 2018 novelization, at least for the time being. Alright, here we go. I talked about what we saw and know, mostly. Now comes the time to make a bunch of very smart, correct, educated predictions about what more awaits us in this game. I'd like to start by overanalyzing the key art that reveals a lot more about the Everywhen. First of all, we can see here that Faye will receive some kind of bracelet, which I assume amplifies or alters her Jotnar powers. Also, am I tripping, or are those scales on her arm? Is Faye gonna turn into a snake? Hello? On top of the 2 landmarks we've already seen, we got this electric forest with odd wooden wooden structures. Looks like a nice spot for Thor to hang out. We got this massive tapeworm just asking to be fought. We got a couple of medieval-looking structures with red flags. Could be Celtic or Arthurian or maybe Gaelic. The long bridge between the observatory and the gateway looked to have the same style, so whoever's building all this stuff has, or used to have, a lot of architectural influence over this land. Then we got this dome building, which looks like the little towers around the telescope, so these are connected. We got this tribal Ewok village over here and another similar one here, both at the foothills of this very dangerous looking volcano thing, prime location for a dramatic finale or something like that. We got these hanging plateaus on the other side of it, another hanging swampy looking area, the remains of a massive scorpion in front of a golden line temple with cobras on the sides is definitely Sekhmet's domain. We have another lightning striking out of this floating water island, and here's another one. Bit of a Hyrule moment, but I saved the best for last, even if it is on the thumbnail. These are Greek ruins. With this tiny detail, the chances of Faye encountering any amount of Olympians increase dramatically. What I find interesting is how small and shabby the Greek zone looks compared to the rest. Even though Kratos sent the entire pantheon up there, Zeus and company don't seem to have much of any influence over the Everywhen. And I wonder why. Maybe they're just so scared and depressed about a bald demigod with anger management issues wiping them all out in a single day that they're not feeling particularly powerful or divine in this land. Maybe they just don't want to work together because Olympians famously don't get along very well unless they have to repel titans or something like that. Or it could do with them losing their magic. As Frey explains in Ragnarok,
Magic is bound to the earth. When your homeland died, your powers probably went with it.
since the Greek world was destroyed, so was the Greek magic, and it would be very intriguing if the mega powerful Greek gods don't have any magic in the Everywhen. Since this realm is the end point of all magic, this is possibly where all the Greek gods' powers were absorbed. So they're nothing more than mortals in this afterlife of the gods. Just throwing a couple options out for you. Knowing that this game takes place parallel to 2018, depending on how time works in the Everywhen, we could witness the arrival of Magni, Modi, and Baldur, as per Faye's plan. There was a weird point made by Mimir about the former.
Hey, I just realized. Magni didn't come back to life.
That is interesting. It's known the Aesir find their own way to Valhalla. No Valkyrie escort, no processing at the gates of Helheim. That may be significant.
And this could be a part of Faye's plan going wrong, or maybe her fixing it, but now that we know where gods go after death, this particular mystery could be a part of the plot. And while we're at it, some older Norse gods could show up as well. For example, Njord, the Vanir god of the sea and father of Frey and Freyr, or any of the dead Aesir we never saw. The possibilities are truly endless. It will be very interesting to see how far Santa Monica will go with returning dead gods, because the fan service could get out of hand really easily. On the topic of dead gods, we gotta talk about Athena. Knowing what we now know about the divine afterlife, Athena's ghostly return to the mortal plane seems to be an extremely difficult thing to achieve. A major theme on display with this reveal is the finality of death. As much as any of these gods or fae may want to return, they simply cannot. But Athena did, at least incorporeally, though she became malevolent and manipulated Kratos into destroying an entire pantheon and tried to claim the power of hope for herself. Of course, we don't know if Athena achieved this on her own or even willingly. We know her and Thoth are in cahoots. Is he also dead, by the way? But it would be very interesting to explore the price returning from the afterlife could have on Faye. The hint of Faye exploring the origins of the Everyone and a very real feeling Ghost of Athena trying to discourage Kratos and maybe thwart Faye's plan could make her a part of this narrative. Let's talk a little bit about what Faye is going to do and how she will be able to pull a Lion King 1.5 and influence the events of 2018 and maybe Ragnarok from beyond the mortal realm. The interesting thing is that we kind of already know what she did because the seeds have long been planted in the Norse games. Atreus hearing her in the light during 2018.
I hear her! I told you I heard her!
Then Kratos hearing her in Ragnarok, her intruding into Kratos' dreams and turning them into nightmares, very rude, whispering words of wisdom to Atreus in his most near-death moment.
Don't be afraid. No matter what happens, I'll be with you, but your path is your own.
Now it's clear that all of those things appear to be Faye trying to influence things from the Everywhen. Whether Faye will be able to reach the mortal realm again in a more physical way, even as an Athena-type ghost, is unclear, but...
Somebody just called the serpent.
It's time. This is it. God of War Laufey is the game where we find out who blew the horn and why. First of all, I can tell you right now with absolute certainty that Brock and Sindri are coming back in this game. Adam J. Harrington was the one to spoil the existence of this game years ago.
If for some reason, somehow, Faye was alive and would come back and Sindri would see her, what would you think his reaction would be? Would he just freak out like, no way?
No comment.
No. Which means that Faye is probably returning.
No comment.
Brock and Sindri are featured quite prominently in the marketing, and Corey just name-dropped Sindri out of nowhere in an interview.
And for me, Faye and, Sindri are, to me, the two most interesting characters.
The Huldra were always very secretive about their relationship with Faye, and I'm personally dying to finally see what it's all about.
Faye's dead? I'm very, very sorry to hear that.
And then there's Jormungandr. They were the two last remaining giants in Midgard, so Faye is exclusively qualified to call and communicate with Jormi, because who else could? The question is still why? Why does Faye need to communicate with the serpent in this specific moment? Does it have to do with the world going out of balance due to Loki's illness? Is this her plan going out of whack? It's worth noting that this is when Athena manifests herself, which we could now interpret to be more than just a manifestation in Kratos' mind. Also, what would she ask him? Is it really simply about asking the snake to drop his ancestors by Thamur later?
A dead giant. Why would the serpent leave us here?
There's gotta be more to it than that. I don't know, but this is obviously happening, so I'm very, very excited. Lastly, for this segment, I want to talk about what this game implies for the future of God of War. Corey and Ariel, the game's director, confirmed that this is the next mainline game in the series, which means that it not only connects to the past, but also the future. The introduction of the Everywhen changes things forever. The floodgates are now truly open with this insane cosmic realm where all the mythologies are commingled together, and I don't know if a traditional single mythology, single location God of War game is really gonna cut it anymore. It's just too simple now. Intermythological stuff has been hinted at for a long time in the series, and it looks like that is to be the standard from now on. The possibility of Kratos visiting or interacting with multiple mythologies as the Norse God of War is much more likely now, but we can't ignore the existence of the Everyone either. Athena and Faye are proof that it is possible to return to the mortal realm in some capacity, the dead gods somehow pouring into the earth, using masks or rifts or whatever else should become Kratos' problem eventually, because there's simply no way this insane concept, this new layer of the God of War universe, if you will, is not gonna come back in the franchise's future in some capacity. This quick final bit is for all of you story nerds out there. You know, themes, arcs, things like that. I like to pretend I understand them. Corey and Ariel pointed out two big overarching themes that drive God of War Laufey. The first being, unsurprisingly, death and grief. This is a core theme in the Norse saga. 2018 is all about processing someone's death, and Ragnarok is about finally moving on. A big part of anyone's journey in the Everyone seems to be accepting their death, the finality of it. Faye didn't die on her own terms and is eager to come back to fix things. As we know, she will be able to become at least a whisper of a presence, but I suspect a big part of Faye's story in this game is going to be the fact that she will never be able to come back to Kratos and Atreus.
Faye, you need to accept it. All of it. You're dead.
How? How do I accept that?
And since she's dead, she'll naturally be processing all of her life, all the wrong and right that she did. There's a very interesting thing Corey points out about the main trio of the game, Rue, Frank, and Faye. They represent past, present, and future, respectively. Rue is said to be all hung up on the past. Frank is all about being in the moment.
You're here. Be here.
You know, mindfulness and all that good stuff. And Faye is always eager to go forward towards the future. The game's plot of Faye trying to save Kratos and Atreus is steeped in those three as well. There is the past, everything that Faye was and did, everything that got her to this point. There is the present, what's happening right now. 2018 is happening right now, and she's trapped in the afterlife of the gods, and there's no time. She needs to act now to save them, and all of that, everything she did and is doing, is for the future of her family, her people, and her home. But it's also about Faye accepting her future. She's here now, she's dead, and that's for good. I think these are all things that will challenge Faye emotionally in this game, and it'll be very interesting to see in what ways all of those things will manifest. And I think that would be it. Thank you very, very much for sticking around all the way. I did my very best to do this behemoth of a reveal justice. Please share any of your theories, comments, corrections, objections, and reflections down below. I am very, 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 very excited to discuss this announcement with all of you. Plenty more stuff on the way. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.